All right, let me again give you that House Resolution 5423 for the Romica family, and that is Congresswoman Harshbarger has that measure, and so you can call your congressman, congresswoman, and ask them to support H.R. 5423 to protect this homeschool family that the Biden administration wants to kick out. Of course, this is while literally millions are coming across the southern border illegally. You know, migrant encounters at the southern border soared past the 200,000 mark once again last month, adding to the nearly, we think, 4 million migrants that have crossed illegally into the United States since President Biden took office in 2021, with nearly half of those listed as gotaways who slipped into the country without being caught. But this is not evidence of administration that has unwillingly lost control of the border. It looks like it's intentional. The migrants crossing the border are responding to incentives deliberately put in place by the Democratic Party and from the Biden administration. Joining me now to talk about this is Todd Bensman. He's author of the recent book, Overrun, How Joe Biden Unleashed the Greatest Border Crisis in U.S. History. He is a former journalist of 23 years. He currently serves as a senior national security fellow for the Center for Immigration Studies. Todd, thanks so much for joining us today.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So your new book, Overrun, has been described as the source for anyone seeking to understand the causes and the scale of the southern border illegal immigration crisis. Give us a little backstory. What brought you to this issue? And I mean, you've spent a lot of time on the border. You've seen this up close and personal. You've walked through this. Give us the background here.
I mean, well, you know, I am a recovering journalist and in Texas. So I worked for many, many years on border issues when I was a reporter, covered the Calderon government's war on the cartels. And then after that, I went into the intelligence business with the Texas Department of Public Safety, Intelligence Counterterrorism Division, and continued to work on border issues. And now for the last 5 years, I've worked for the Center for Immigration Studies. So it's just kind of in my blood. I've been on this for a long time.
So let me just ask you a question that a lot of people are looking at this. Is this intentional? And what is the Biden administration, what are the Democrats trying to do?
Yes, it's very purposeful. This is not incompetence. No longer after almost 3 years can anybody mistake this as incompetence. It's their policy, their stated spoken policy to create lawful pathways is the term they use over that border into the country, and to create safe, orderly, and humane lawful pathways over the border. Never anything about blocking, stopping, deterring, ending illegal immigration, just facilitating it. It's really the first time in American history that we've ever had an administration take that position. Even Democratic, stalwarts like, Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. I mean, they were all kind of border security guys by comparison. And even some of the people on the far left. I think what happened here is that there was a reaction to Donald Trump. Immigration was his issue, and whatever Trump stood for, we're like way over here to the equal and opposite extreme on the other side, no matter what happens. And I think that's kind of what happened. And ideologues got into the White House in advisory roles who believe in their guts that borders are evil and immoral and are like kind of Jim Crow laws. Our immigration laws are like, Jim Crow, and that they have to be overturned and ignored until then, that sort of thing. And they believe this, and that's exactly what they've implemented.
But, Todd, isn't this like fostering a soft invasion of the country? I mean, when you look at the volume of people who've come across and those that are known to be on the terrorist list that have been caught and those that obviously that haven't been caught, I mean, there's some people here, they're not just coming to get a job.
Well, I think that a great many of them are coming to get a job. I think that these are economic migrants. Fundamentally, they're economic migrants. That is not to say that the numbers of economic migrants have not debilitated our homeland security screening systems and counterterrorism programs that were in place. They have. This is a historic mass migration crisis by every metric. We have never had anything like this in the American experience. And so our infrastructure for dealing with it has completely collapsed. And terrorists who are on the FBI watch list, suspected terrorists who are on the FBI watch list, have crossed and been caught by their hundreds. And we have had 1.8 million just people get through Border Patrol and into the interior, never even counted. So, you have to wonder who all got through, who are from terror watch listed countries or terrorist countries, or our KSTs themselves got through, along with spies and warlords and everything else. It's truly the ultimate stranger danger, what's going on. We have no idea who's crossing that border, but they're crossing and being allowed in by the millions.
Being allowed in. There's really nothing being done to stop this from happening. I mean, you
No, they're
mentioned
all being ushered in. They're being ushered in.
when Donald Trump, you mentioned Donald Trump. I was at the border before he got a handle on it, and then afterwards when they put the policy of stay in Mexico, remain in Mexico, and it was like a ghost town. I mean, it had stopped the flow over, and now it's reached these historic levels. So as you said, it can't be incompetence; it has to be intentional. What is this? What is this doing for? I mean, you work there in law enforcement in intelligence area in Texas. What is this doing to the cartels? How is this empowering them?
Well, the cartels normally, like before anything like this happened, their main line of work was drug trafficking. That's their main source of income. It's always been, and human trafficking over the border or smuggling over the border was kind of a, we'll tax you guys. You smaller guys can operate, but you got to pay us a little bit. But it was kind of a side hustle, I guess you could say. But with this thing, the cartels have decided that this is really their main source of income because the numbers are vast. The money was maybe 500 million a year to them before this happened, and by the end of the first year of it, 2021, it was 13 billion. 2022 and 2023, I'm sure it's like way in the 20 billions, 30 billions of dollars. The money is stupendous. And what the cartels do with that money is they buy weapons, they buy arms, they buy tanks, they buy shoulder fired, rocket propelled grenades, they claim more mines, ammunition, everything military grade that they can possibly purchase. And they buy government officials in Mexico and also in the US. And that power that expanded power means that our ability to control the cartels is diminished. We used to be able to just call the Mexicans and say, hey, they're doing stuff we don't like. We need you to send your military in and shut them down over here. That's not as easy as it was anymore. And it's going to get a lot less easy to, kind of check those cartels when, for example, they decide to demand their brother or uncle from U.S. custody be released. We want a deal. We could tell them no before, but we might not be able to tell them no anymore. And next thing you know, they may be withholding oil exports from Mexico and auto parts and things like that. I think it's very disturbing how the Mexican cartels have just been so empowered and enriched by this thing.
So that's directly linked to the policies of the Biden administration.
Yes. My book, Overrun, traces the mass migration crisis, the current one. We're in a third year now. It's been like years now, to Inauguration Day. it literally started on Inauguration Day. The Trump policies up until that point had kept immigrants from staying home, and from just hanging out. They would stay away because they knew that their money for smuggling would go to waste. So they just stayed in place under Trump, but they massed up on the border in the weeks and months prior to the transition. And they were there for Inauguration Day when the new policies were implemented, and they rushed in that day and every day since on that day.
So Todd, your book, Overrun, how can folks get a copy of your book?
Overrun's available anywhere books are sold. It's in bookstores, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's just anywhere you want to buy your books. And it just came out on audio too last month.
Do you see an end in sight?
The only end in sight, the only possible end in sight, would be if a Republican it took over the White House, was elected, and brought in an administration that just simply reversed these policies. This is reversible. It's immediately reversible. But the damage that's been done for the last 3 years, I think, is not reversible. I think we will be just simply stuck with these millions and millions of people that were brought in. They're never going to be, I don't think, fully deportable, all of them, no matter how hard we try. So, I mean, whatever damage is done between now and then, I think we're just going to have to live with.
The implications for the country going forward with all of these individuals in the country that are here in the shadows? I mean, how do we deal with that?
Well, I mean, it's a fiscal burden. I mean, you can see, the case of New York City is the most obvious kind of squeaky wheel thing, where you've got, 150,000 unexpected, needy families and people that need to be fed and sheltered and housed, and nobody budgeted for this because they didn't expect it, right? That is being replicated at cities throughout America. It's not just 3 or 4 cities. It's every city in town.
But Todd, that's a really good point. We're almost out of time here. But had that not happened, I think it was a brilliant move by some of these governors to start busing folks to these sanctuary cities. Had that not happened, the media would have been content basically not to report this or just say, this is Texas whining or this is Arizona whining. But now the whole country sees the magnitude of this problem.
Well, I have a different take on the busing, the governor's busing, just real quickly. All of the immigrants that were put on buses weren't actually put on buses. They voluntarily got on those buses. They were going to go one way or another. I don't think what the governor did or didn't do has anything to do with it. They were all going there anyway. It was inevitable that all the space would fill up, and there would be an unfunded, massive, multi-billion dollar unfunded burden in these cities, just like there is in lots of cities whose mayors are suffering in silence.
Yeah,
there is no city in America that doesn't have these problems right now. They all do.
Right. But I think it was the governors brought attention to it with that, whether it's political theater or whatever. It did bring the media, because the media hadn't wanted to report on it.
You're right. But eventually they would have had to report on it, because what do you do with everybody? I mean, they're sleeping in the streets.
Yeah. Todd Bensman, thank you so much for joining us. Great book, and we're going to encourage people to pick it up so they have a better understanding of what's happening at our southern border and why. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.